There are moments when the world doesn't just speak, it screams. Its demands echo inside you louder than your own thoughts. The expectations, the noise, the urgency to perform, to respond, to please. And somewhere in the middle of it all, you disappeared. Not in body, but in presence, in spirit, in essence. You kept walking, smiling, fulfilling roles. But the voice inside you? It grew quiet. Too quiet. Not because it died, but because it retreated. When the world becomes too much, the soul doesn't break. It hides. It finds corners no one looks into, folds itself into invisible pockets, shelters beneath layers of functionality. You are praised for your strength, your resilience, your performance. But no one sees that your essence is crouched in a dark room somewhere deep within, whispering, "Please, just let me breathe." Maybe you became the strong one in the family, the reliable colleague, the high achiever. But inside your soul curled away like a child under thunder, because no one asked how you were really feeling. Because even when they did, you had already trained yourself not to answer truthfully. You had to be okay, even when you weren't. This is how the hiding begins. Not in one dramatic collapse, but in small daily disappearances. You stop singing in the shower. You stop daydreaming. You stop crying, because even that feels unsafe. The world applauds your functionality, but your inner world is slowly losing color. And you know it. That something essential, once vibrant, has gone quiet. Not gone, but hiding, waiting for the noise to fade. A soul doesn't run away. It creates sanctuaries, secret ones, emotional landscapes untouched by judgment. When life becomes too loud, the soul doesn't explode. It withdraws into safe spaces made of memory, imagination, or silence. Some hide in childhood memories. Others escape into overwork, endless scrolling, or people-pleasing. Not because they're weak, but because those spaces became safer than reality. A child who was punished for expressing emotion grows into an adult who suppresses everything. Someone who was constantly interrupted learns to speak less and feel more, silently. You may have been that child, or maybe you became that adult. Either way, your soul adjusted. It protected itself, and in doing so, it stopped showing itself. Sometimes this inner shelter looks like numbing out. Other times it looks like being hyperproductive. You function, but you're disconnected. You smile, but it's a survival mask. You achieve, but inside, nothing moves. You start to feel like a ghost living someone else's life. That is the cost of the shelter. You're safe, but distant. Untouched, but unlived. Psychologist Gabor Mate calls this adaptive suppression. We don't choose to vanish. We adapt to survive. We abandon the parts of us that weren't accepted, not because we wanted to, but because we had to. The body is present, but the soul is asleep behind walls built for protection. And here's the paradox. What once saved you may now be what's holding you back. The hiding that once kept you safe now keeps you invisible. The quiet that once shielded you now keeps you from being heard, even by yourself. Your soul didn't leave. It learned to whisper, and the world never stopped talking long enough for you to hear it again. There comes a point when the refuge becomes a prison, when the silence meant to protect you begins to suffocate. You've become so good at pretending you're okay that no one notices you're not. You've hidden so well, even from yourself, and the world rewards that. It praises your strength, your independence, your calm. But it doesn't know you stopped crying because even your tears forgot how to fall. The soul, when it hides too long, becomes heavy, not from sadness, but from disconnection, from the constant effort of pretending to be someone you're not, from laughing without joy, from showing up while being absent. It's like living behind a wall of glass. You can see life, but you can't feel it. This hidden exhaustion doesn't show up in tests. It doesn't raise alarms, but it steals your mornings. It robs your motivation. It silences the music you once loved. And slowly, without even noticing, you stop dreaming. You stop hoping. you start confusing numbness with peace. And that's the most dangerous part. You don't break, you fade. Jordan Peterson talks about how people often sacrifice their authenticity to maintain social harmony. But when this becomes a way of life, not a choice, the result is soul death. You start performing life instead of living it. You start becoming what others expect, not what your heart longs to be. So you shrink your voice. You edit your truth. You fold yourself into shapes that make others comfortable, until one day you don't remember who you were before you started surviving. That is the cost of hiding too well. Your own soul forgets how to come home. You didn't mean to disappear, you just didn't know where it was safe to be real. Even when you've stopped searching, something inside you hasn't given up. There are whispers, soft and quiet, that call you back to yourself. They appear in unexpected places. A memory triggered by a scent, a tear that comes for no reason, a sudden longing for something you never had words for. Your soul doesn't scream. It waits. It sends signs. Not to be loud, but to be felt. And if you're still breathing, it means it hasn't left you. Have you ever paused in the middle of the day and felt a sadness with no name? That wasn't depression. That was your soul knocking, gently, patiently, asking to be remembered. Sometimes you feel nostalgic for a place you've never been, or you miss someone you've never met. That's not imagination. That's your inner self reaching for a home it once knew, for a version of life that felt sacred, meaningful, alive. You feel it when you cry at stories that mirror your hidden pain. You feel it when silence feels more truthful than words. You feel it when nature touches something ancient in you that no city could ever reach. Those are not coincidences. Those are footprints, traces, clues that your soul still lives, still watches, still hopes. Viktor Frankl reminds us, what is to give light must endure burning. Your soul never stopped burning. It just protected the flame in secret. And now maybe it's waiting for you to come back and tend to it. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to fix everything. You just need to sit beside that inner fire again. To listen. To remember that you are not what the world sees. You are what still breathes in the silence. Coming home is not a physical journey. It's the slow, sacred process of remembering who you were before the noise, before the wounds, before the world told you who to be. It's sitting in silence long enough to hear your own voice again. Not the one shaped by others, but the one that existed in you since the beginning. You don't need a map. Your soul has been waiting with the door unlocked. Coming home feels like forgiveness, not for others, but for yourself, for abandoning your softness, for pretending to be stronger than you were, for believing you had to earn love by silencing your needs. It's not weakness to return, it's courage. When you come home, you'll meet the version of you that never gave up, the child who still dreams, the quiet guardian of your values, the one who remembers why you came to this world in the first place. Not to perform, but to feel, to grow, to witness the sacred in the ordinary. You'll find joy in small rituals again, watching the light shift through the trees, hearing your own breath in the morning, saying no without guilt, and yes without fear. Jordan Peterson teaches us that to rebuild life, we must take responsibility not for the chaos outside, but for the disorder within. Returning home is that act. It's putting things in their place. It's choosing presence over performance, truth over image, being over doing. And perhaps the most beautiful part of coming home is realizing you were never truly lost, just distant, just protecting yourself in the only way you knew how. Now you know a new way. Now you can walk back, slowly, softly, without shame. There comes a moment when you stop asking the world to be quiet, and you begin listening to your own silence instead. That's the threshold, the sacred turning point where survival becomes living again. You'll still hear the noise, the demands, the expectations, but something in you changes. The silence inside becomes louder than the chaos outside. And for the first time, that silence doesn't scare you. It heals you. Because now, you know where your soul went. You found the place where it hid and you didn't rush it, you sat with it, you let it speak. You didn't drag it back into the light. You invited it, and in doing so, you remembered how to love yourself without conditions, how to exist without proving, how to stay, truly stay, in your own body, in your own story, in your own breath. This is your sanctuary, not made of walls or words, but of inner stillness, the kind that cannot be stolen by noise, the kind that grows each time you choose to return. If this story touched a part of you that the world forgot, don't rush to explain it. Just breathe. Let the echo settle. And write in the comments, "I remember where I hid." Share this video with someone who needs to feel safe again. Not out there, but in here. And if you want to keep rediscovering these sacred places within, subscribe now. I see you, even in the silence, especially there.